Yes, hello to you all once again, and welcome back once more to your favourite classic dirt bike TV channel, where we take a look at more of those classic vintage and twin-shock motocross racers. Now, as you know, we just recently returned from our two-day event at the 2022 Telford Classic Dirt Bike Show, and it was quite a successful weekend, and all 5 episodes of that Telford show are now up and running here on my YouTube channel. So if you didn't manage to make the show this year, then take a look at some of the nice bikes that were on display over the course of that weekend. And also thanks to the many subscribers from my channel that I met at the show. It was nice to see 1 or 2 of you there in person, so to speak. And also thanks for the many positive comments that you gave me with regards my video content. But right now we're back to domestic chores once again, so we're going to take another nice bike and take a look at it in detail. So without any further delay, this next bike up belongs to Scottish rider Rick Caldwell. So let's get straight into the video and take a look at Rick's lovely Curtis twin-shock Honda. Now, this rather nice looking Curtis Honda twin-shocker belongs to local Ayrshire and Scottish Twin-Shock Scramble Club chairman Rick Caldwell, who put this lovely machine together from a Curtis built frame and a Honda XR500 4-stroke motor. Now, when Rick decided to build this bike, he wanted to put his own personal spin on this machine, just to make it a bit different from the run-of-the-mill Curtis twin-shockers that you normally see at vintage or other twin-shock race events. Now, the history of Curtis bikes dates back to 1972, when Brian Curtis started the company when he was just 31 years old. And Brian, of course, was quite an accomplished rider in his own right back in the 1960s, and he started out his motorcycle frame building skills by working for the great Don and Derek Rickman, before then moving on to start his own Curtis framed machines. Now, it's also said that Brian Curtis at one time was commissioned by Yamaha to build a batch of 200 500cc Yamahas, which at that time was a huge deal for Brian Curtis, because he was a one-man operation working in a very small workshop. Although beginning with our particular bike's chassis here, now this frame was built by Dennis Mapp, who works at Curtis Bikes, and Dennis is currently still producing these fantastic nickel-plated steel frames to order, so maybe if you're looking for something that little bit different for a new bike build project, then it might be worth getting in touch with Dennis to see what he could do for you. Although you have to admit that the workmanship and the engineering on this chassis and its fixings is top quality, and all of the frame's other bolt-ons, including these very nice nickel-plated footrests and rear brake pedal, are all very well put together. Although I expect, because these frames are custom made to the customer's requirements, then you can certainly specify all manner of additional features on your own personal project and have it plated or even painted in whichever colour that takes your fancy. Although I have to say that when you see this nickel plating, it certainly has a bit more bling to it than maybe just a simple painted chassis. And these nickel plated footrests that you see here look very strong and will certainly give the rider's feet quite a bit of support when he's standing on the pegs. Now, as you've no doubt guessed, the bike's power plant is the tried and tested Honda XR500 4-stroke engine, and this has been fully rebuilt and refurbished by classic bike building expert Rob Spry. Now, the motor's been bored out to 520cc, and it's also fitted with an upgraded mid-range camshaft, and the engine's balancer shaft has also been removed, which is quite a common practice on these XR engines, as it's said to improve the bike's performance by making its pickup much quicker. Now, the cylinder on this engine's also undergone the usual fin removal, which is another very common modification on these Honda 500 motors, and every second cooling fin here has been machined off. Now, some people say this is done to reduce weight, and others say it's done to improve the cooling of the motor, but maybe it's like if you're at a particularly muddy racetrack and it's not as easy for mud and debris to get caught between the fins and then cause overheating. But there's even another school of thought here, in that it's done purely for cosmetic and looks of the motor, but I'll leave you all there to make up your own mind on that particular point. Now, other than the improvements that we've just mentioned, and with this motor also having stronger clutch springs, almost the rest of this engine is still in its stock trim, as Rick didn't want too many changes done to the motor, as he wanted it to be more reliable than super quick. So just the basic of upgrades were performed on this Honda motor. But a couple of other minor cosmetic changes that have been done to this engine is these ignition side casings have been black powder coated, with a couple of those red anodized fixings also done. Now, the clutch side of the motor, as I said, has had stronger clutch springs fitted, and again the casings also had that black powder coating treatment. Now, once again, to keep that big 520cc four-stroke motor fed with its fuel, we have a 36mm Mikuni carburetor that breathes its air through a twin air filter. And again, although this is a single cylinder engine, these big XR 500s of course have a twin port exhaust in the cylinder head, with these header pipes that ran down either side of the bike. Now, the stainless steel exhaust system that's fitted to this bike is certainly not available to buy in any shops or bike stores, because this system here was custom made for this particular bike by Rick's friend Barry. Now, these twin tailpipes may look like they're just straight through tailpipes, but they in actual fact do have a set of baffles fitted inside them, and hopefully we should be able to hear the sound from these pipes later in the video. But as you know, many of these XRs in the past would maybe have had a pair of big silencers sticking out at the rear here, but again, Rick wanted this bike to be slightly different from the rest, and he's certainly done it with a superb custom-made exhaust system. And so as we move on to the bike's front end here, we have a set of Marzocchi triple clamps, which of course lead on to a very hefty pair of 45mm Italian Marzocchi Magnum suspension units, which of course are fully tunable for rebound and damping. Now, the front brake hub on this bike has been taken from a Husqvarna machine, which is of the twin leading shoe variety, so that should give our big XR Honda quite a decent amount of stopping power. And both the front and the rear wheels, as you can see, are brand new, and these are a pair of alloy gold anodized SM Pro rims that have been laced onto the Husky hub with heavy duty stainless steel spokes. So as you can gather, quite a strong front end on this Curtis Honda, with those Marzocchi Magnum forks and that Husky hub. Now once more, the rear hub and brake on this Curtiss is your standard XR500 Honda rear brake, and this in turn again has been respoked and laced onto that new SM Pro alloy wheel. And as I remember, I think these hubs did have a magnesium brake backplate fitted to them. And although once again you have to say that this Curtiss chassis and this swing arm in particular is another work of art in its own right by the Curtiss boys, and having the whole thing nickel plated, it certainly makes it stand out from your regular XR Hondas. Now tucked away nicely underneath here we have more Curtiss customization in this nicely sculpted alloy deflector panel, and it nests very neatly between these super sexy gold coloured Öhlins piggyback suspension units. And as you can see, Rick's certainly dug deep and spared no expense in buying the best suspension units that he could afford, and these Öhlins certainly don't come much better than these Swedish piggyback units, which again are highly tunable for the rider's weight and riding style, and are also fully serviceable and rebuildable, so they'll certainly do a very good job of keeping this big Honda's back end in check, even on the bumpiest of racetracks. And so as we move on to the gas tank on our Rick Caldwell Curtiss Honda, now this has been taken from a 1979 Honda 250 Red Rocket, and this tank of course has been painted white, and then these very nice graphics added, which were all supplied by Ian and Alan Reid at MXM Graphics, who manufacture all manner of motocross graphics for your bike, and they can even do these one-off special projects as used on this featured machine. Now also both of the bike's side panels are again made from alloy and have had the MXM graphics fitted onto them, which just all add up to the overall look and the personal touches that Rick was aiming for when he began to build this brand new project. And these special one-off graphics certainly give this bike a very unique look. Now once again, the seat on Rick's machine is another custom made part that has had a brand new seat base, a new foam insert, and once more that nicely stitched seat cover with its Curtiss Honda logo stamped on it. All again supplied by those very talented MXM graphic boys of Ian and Alan Reid. And so as we move to the bike's front number plate and its front plastic mudguard, now these are both sourced from a KTM motocross bike, but they still look quite good on this Curtiss Honda with that black and white theme to the project. Now the rear mudguard once again is an Acerbis part, and much the same as that would have been fitted on a stock XR500 Honda Twinshocker. And so as we move to the bike's controls department, we have quite a good set of Renthal handlebars here with Scott grips and an engine kill switch there, just in case you have to shut down that Honda motor in an emergency. Now also bolted onto the bars here are a decent pair of Apico levers and their covers, along with the usual Gunnar Gasser throttle twist grip that we had to actually scrub clean on the day after the bike got blown over in the howling winds when we were taking these pictures. But again, all very high quality items on this very special machine. Although at the end of the day you have to admit that this is a very well put together motorcycle, and as yet Rick has yet to give the bike its baptism on the racetrack, and in actual fact Rick has already hinted that this bike may be up for sale in the future, because he already has another couple of similar bike building projects on the go, and he may need extra funds to finance their completion. So when, or even if, Rick decides to sell this machine, then somebody's certainly going to get themselves a pretty special kind of race bike. And so there you have it, a bike that was built from a Curtis frame, swing arm and a Honda XR500 power plant. And we've had a walk round and talked a bit about the sum of this bike's parts. So let's get Rick just to fire the bike up and have a quick listen to the sound that comes from those very nice pair of custom made exhaust pipes. Well, there you have it. I do hope you enjoyed that walk around Rick Caldwell's quite nice looking Curtis 520 Honda Twinshocker. That's of course just one of the recent projects that Rick has completed. He also has another couple of bike building projects on the go, so maybe once they're completed we will maybe take a look at further machines from Rick's collection. So coming up next, we're going to take a look at this lovely 1977 AW250 Myco Twinshocker. Now, this is another bike that belongs to one of these Scottish Twinshock riders, and this is Gary White's quite nice looking machine. So we'll be taking a look at this bike in my next video posting here on my channel. But until then, everybody, of course, continue to be safe and well out there when you're riding those old vintage dirt bikes, and we'll all, of course, get back together here again very soon to talk about more vintage iron right here on your #1 and favourite classic dirt bike TV channel.